Well, the second show of the anime summer season is here. And wow, look at that, another isekai. Who would have thought? To say the least, I was actually enjoying the main character, especially during most of episode 1. But one specific thing that happens near the end of the episode, in some way and form, might have just ruined the main character for me for the rest of the series. And we will get to that later in the video. Believe you me. Now, the first episode of From Overshadowed to Overpowered, second reincarnation of a Talentless Sage. Wow, these titles never get any shorter, do they? We are thrown into what we believe is the original life, though we later learn is the second life of our main character here. He is a hardworking, striving, older mage that accompanies 3 other mages as well as the hero in this battle against the Demon Lord. We are thrown at the tail end of this battle. Of course, the good guys win, and in the aftermath of this, the MC among the other mages are given the title of Emperor, which is a very esteemed, respectful title, and he is very clearly touched and humbled by this, especially because it is not something that a non-noble is really able to achieve or should be allowed to achieve. We very quickly learn that our main character seems to come from more humble means. Obviously, he's not a noble, and clearly he has worked harder than anyone else to achieve the level of power that he has. We also learn early on in this prologue that, yes, while our MC is powerful, he is not as powerful as the most powerful mages of the day. And a lot of the episode does focus in on specific elements within that, and, well, how that all turns out. We quickly then jump over to his older days. I'm not really sure, 15, 20 years later, he is a teacher, and he's tutoring children on how to use magic. He has his own school set up, etc., etc. And we are then also given a somewhat hint that he seems to just prioritize magic, teaching magic, learning magic, becoming better at magic, potentially to the detriment of his own health. This is also where we are introduced to the only student character that will probably matter for the rest of the series, Merlin. And no, it's not that one. This is not Arthur, okay? And Camelot, so don't you worry. Merlin is by far his most spirited student. She seems like a go-getter, and it's clear she wants to advance faster and further than the other students and faster than what our main character would like or has planned for. She seems to be in a bit of a hurry, to which we find out exactly why she has that hurry shortly after. Merlin then ends up taking on more than she can chew, handling some sort of difficult monster in the cave, and of course our main character has to come in and save her, and he admonishes her for, well, taking on more than she can chew. After this point, though, is when we start building out Merlin's character somewhat and explaining her motivations for having this rush and hurry. Quickly find out that, okay, yes, the main character, the master here, the teacher, he is sick, and terminally so, it seems like. And she had this hurry because she wants to be able to be strong enough to take over the teaching role so that our MC can rest. There's a nice scene, I would say, overall, where she explains this to him and he has the realization of, oh shit, you've been doing all of this for me, and that's why you've been acting this way. Merlin is clearly set up to be a, very caring character, very considerate, and obviously she also has a huge amount of admiration, love, and respect for our main character, and that is probably going to be shining through in the rest of the series. Of course, this is just our main character's quote-unquote original life, so Merlin will not be there when our main character reincarnates. But, of course, as we spent this much time building her character in episode 1, and well, because one of the girls on the cover art of the anime looks suspiciously like her, hint hint, I am more than sure that she will also reincarnate in some way and form and, join our main character in this story later on. As a quick side note, I do actually wonder how they will treat the reincarnation. On the tin, we have not been told this yet in world, but on the tin of the anime it says that our main character reincarnates 400 years after his last life, unless I'm misreading something, which does of course happen. Now I do wonder how our main character, as well as Merlin, might be included in the history books, or if there might be some cute tidbits there that we will learn about later on. It is also worth to mention, I think, that Merlin specifically is a demon kind, whatever that specifically means. Our main character adopts her as a baby after he finds her after the battle with the demon lord, where her parents were killed. It doesn't seem, at least in the original life, that demon folk are treated especially badly. There's no like clear signs of, the classic racism and xenophobia and, hostility. Then again, in the reincarnated world, all those years later, who knows? Let's not look away from the possibility of the classic demon kind slave trade or whatever else might come up. You know how it is. As Merlin has been raised, though, by our main character, I suppose there is also going to be a fair father-daughter relationship there, though it didn't seem like we really explored that a ton in episode 1. But maybe we will in the reincarnated setting later on. Now, at the tail end of episode 1, the Flame Emperor, one of the other mages that was in the battle, part of the other 3 that were basically prodigies and hyper-powerful, way more powerful even then at a younger age than our main character, he's finally solved, the ability to find aptitudes in magic. So, no longer do people need to just have trial and error and zero in on what they think their students' aptitudes are. Now you can just take a test and you'll see what your aptitudes are. And of course, this is revolutionary in the world of magic in this isekai world here, and our main character is more than hyped about testing it. This is where we find out that Merlin is S rank in water and wind, and C rank in fire, and B rank in earth. We'll see how relevant that is moving forward. The bigger point here is that Ephtal, our main character, also of course wants to test himself, as the through line of this episode already has been a lot about his inadequacies, his never-ending struggle and pursuit of attaining, greatness, becoming the most powerful mage, sort of trying to hold to that ideal, always pushing, always working harder than anyone else. And finally, he is able to check, okay, did I ever actually, have the aptitudes? Did I make the right choices in what magic to focus on? Did I actually waste my potential? Or did I get as far as I possibly could have, given my starting point? And to his and everyone else's surprise, our main character has 0 aptitudes. The water in the test every single while is clear. He has F rank in every single type of magic, which understandably stuns him. He does mention at the time that this means that no spirit blessed him, as that is somehow part of the ability to gain aptitude in some way and form in each type of magic. I wonder if the spirit's blessing will be in any way relevant moving forward. I would assume not, but it's worth to keep a note on, I would say, anyway. This is where things start to go wrong, though, for our character. Not just, of course, in terms of his health, but this realization in and of itself is understandably crushing. As mentioned before, yes, our MC always strived to be the most powerful mage, the best mage. He worked so much harder, 100 times harder, I think he says, than anyone else. But he, even back in the Demon Lord fight, realized he could not match the younger mages that were also in the hero's team, and he was the only one that ever struggled during the fight. He was no prodigy. He had no sort of natural skills that gave him a break or enabled him to push past, let's say, standard limitations. And he ever only managed to reach level 10 in magic, which assumingly, though we're not told in episode 1, you can reach higher levels. At the time, I did think it would have been nice in retrospect if they did show a scene or two or an image or two during the initial Demon Lord fight of our main character struggling more visually than the rest of the mages. Maybe they did, but at least if they did, I didn't notice. Maybe that's on me, or it's on them for not making it clear enough, which they could have, I think, if they wanted to. And of course, it should be said that our MC managed to reach the heights at which he did, becoming an emperor, even if he might not have earned it per se, but he did because he, helped beat the Demon Lord, and reaching level 10 in magic is still an insane achievement for someone with no aptitudes. It should be a miracle more than anything else. But of course, he himself is crushed by this. Of course, I do understand him, and the way he takes this. In one way, of course, it is dispiriting, knowing that no matter how much you did, all the work you put in, all the tries you had, all the never-ending hours and effort you put in to become the best was always pointless because you simply did not have the starting point that would enable you to push to the very apex of magic. At the same time, on the flip side, it does tell him that, yeah, you actually achieved this even though you had no starting point at all. You were far behind any mage at all, basically, but he still managed to attain this title and this rank and this power, which should at least in some way be hugely encouraging for him. Him realizing that, yes, my starting point was shit, but that I still reached this level, that should be worth something, you know? Of course, he's then, basically cursing the gods and himself for being given this hand in life, but at least you can never say that he didn't try, and that he has anything but a dogged spirit, to say the least. Shortly after, our main character dies in the original world of whatever sickness he had. Now, I assume that one reason why he died as well so quickly after this test came out and happened is that he realized no matter how much more I try, no matter how much more time I manage to squeeze out of life, I can never reach the apex. And realizing that, well, probably just made him give up and, let the sickness take over. You know what they say? People with no goals, no dreams left, no hope left, well, life leaves them much faster than ones that have a reason to keep going. So then, well, he dies, without ever achieving his dream of becoming the best. Hopefully you have kept with me so far. I know we have been going for a while already, but the big, massive problem is just coming up. Before we get there though, do please remember to like, subscribe, comment down below if you have any questions, whatever else, as it greatly helps me out and the channel out, and I deeply appreciate the support. So please consider doing that. Thank you kindly. Now, before we get into the massive, quotation marks, problem I had with episode 1, up until this point in the episode, I was quite respecting the main character. I was quite respecting Ephtal, his spirit, his determination, his dogged pursuit of his goals. Everything they had showed of his character was to be of, this man, he is, well, as they later put it, indomitable. He never gives up. He can't be broken. He has a spirit that is stronger than life itself, And that is a cornerstone of his personality. It is the cornerstone, I would say, that we learn about him throughout the course of episode 1. And, that's also, of course, very admirable and something respectful that you can really root for the character with, that starting point, that layout of his character so far. But then, the reincarnation happens. And oh boy, was I not prepared for how they handle that. We find out that, actually, he has a second reincarnation skill, which he has had from before. He already reincarnated once before into his previous life, so it was his second, not his first, and then the next life is going to be his third. He has a one-liner about how he completely forgot he had this skill. I just remembered now after dying. That alone is a massive question mark, but we'll keep going before we handle that. We also learn he was given the indomitable skill at the start of his second life, which was further just shattering to me in terms of what I thought of the character and putting everything in a massive retrospect of, wait, so who is exactly this character then? And that led me down a long rabbit hole of making notes for way too long. To start out though, really, he forgot he had a second reincarnation skill. How is that something you forget? Okay, I guess technically, to be very kind to the anime here, it's a sort of skill that you only realize or remember you have once you die. It's some sort of celestial thing that you're not able to remember you have it before it happens. If that is the case, though to be very clear that it's not stated in any way whatsoever, in any way, shape, or form in episode 1, that would be slightly better, if that turns out to be the case, though I don't think it is, than the alternative. Because if he just forgot, which to me again seems ludicrous, then that cheapens a lot of the motivations and drive he had in his last life. If you already know you're going to reincarnate every time you die, because of this unique skill you have, why would you stick to each life so hard? If you just know you can restart in a younger, healthier body and continue your learning, your teaching, your goal chasing, why would you then have this extremely dogged determination to reach the apex in one specific life? That to me just seems almost contradictory, you know what I mean? And I was quite unhappy with that revelation. Now, if this was not enough, as I mentioned, he is also told by the celestial being that, yes, he had the extra skill Indomitable that he was given at the start of his second life. And when I heard that, I thought, wow, are you trying to assassinate the character here? In episode 1 already? Because as I said before, like the main notes that I made on this episode and on this character, which I assume you will also probably think as well after watching it, if there is one thing you can say about the main character, it is that, yeah, he is, well, as they say, indomitable. He has this insane dogged pursuit of his goals. And, he never breaks, he never stops, he always keeps chasing that goal. That is a cornerstone of his character. But now you find out that, sure, even if the celestial being says that it wasn't just the skill, it was also your own thing. But by and large, it means that this extremely important and pivotal point of his character that we are mainly showing in episode 1, it turns out to just be a skill. It's not his own doing. He was just able to do it because of some whatever random isekai bonus skill. This feels so incredibly cheap. Like they are just erasing the biggest part of his character that we've come to know and is turning it into like a, whatever, it's a skill. I cannot tell you how how baffled I felt after thinking about this. Of like, I don't even know who this character is anymore. Like, does he have any other random bonus skills that explains character traits? Like, who is this guy then? If this part of his character is mainly or completely part of a skill, what do we really know about him so far? Nothing? I mean, very little in comparison to what I thought we did before, but alas, I guess that's how we're going with this. No, not what I would have done, but okay, anime, okay. Like, I, after thinking about this, would have much rather preferred a more classical story of, yeah, this guy, he worked super hard, he was, well, indomitable, as they aptly say, and he earned the right to be reincarnated because of the bad lot he had in life, but still making such an amazing journey out of the cards he was dealt. Like, that setup, instead, to me, would have been colossally 100, 1,000 times better and would not have hurt his character, but rather built upon it, reinforced that, yeah, because of these things, because you did all this, because you are this kind of person, you have earned, you have deserved this new start in life by this celestial being. But no, just no, that's not how it went. And, well, I have to say I was quite unhappy with it, and that's about that. If you have any thoughts about this, by the way, if you agree with me or disagree, would love to hear your reasoning in the comment section down below. We are not quite done yet, though. I know, I never stop, but I have to analyze. We finally get to the reincarnation. Now, reincarnations to me are always interesting. Some anime go with the route of the isekai spirit, soul, whatever, goes into a already living body. Let's say it takes over a body when it's at a young age, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. But when they do that, they might not realize that you are taking over a body, you're snuffing out the soul in that body and taking it for yourself, which is kind of, murder in a way and form, and, well, to say the least, as many ethical questions come up. Another more common go at it is, of course, reincarnating someone as a baby, and you have the inner monologue of the second, he pops out the womb. This as well can be jading, to say the least, hearing the inner monologue of a literal newborn and his plans, for world domination. This anime at least did it in one way that I think is close to the ideal, where yes, you're just reincarnated as this new soul from the get-go as a baby, but you only regain your memories from your previous life, or lives in this case, I suppose, after you reach a certain age, and the memories keep unlocking as, you develop and the brain develops and, the body develops. So at least I'll give them slight kudos for going that route in comparison to the other options. We quickly find out again, though, that even in this new life, after he remembers to take the aptitude test, he has no aptitudes in this new reincarnated life either, which I suppose signifies that your soul, is what has these aptitudes, not the body specifically you're in, if they even have thought enough about it to have that be a rule, per se. I guess we'll find out. Another thing to note, by the way, is that he said no to 2 extra skills, as he was offered by the goddess before reincarnation. In one way, I thought, yeah, actually that makes sense, because his character, what I thought his character was that he was hardworking, let's say honest, earnest, and wanting to achieve things based on his own merit, his own mettle, and not be just given anything by anyone. He wanted to earn it with his own 2 hands. But then again, with the indomitable skill, as mentioned before, I can't really say I can give that to the anime, because an extra skill he had from before turned him into what I thought his character was. So why not take the extra skills then? I mean, what is his character really? I don't know. I have no idea right now. So, unsure about that choice as well. It's very possible, of course, as well, that the goddess gave him some random 2 skills that he doesn't know about, but we will find out later that it's probably going to be stupid and OP. But hey, we'll see. At the very tail end of the episode, though, we do see that, okay, he's able to use his magic even at his peak in the last life at 4 years old. So I guess he's able to just use his full power from the get-go. I assume that at least means that even if he only masters level 10, well, now he can maybe push himself further now that he has another lifetime to learn and refine himself even more. Who knows? We'll find out, I suppose, sooner or later. This does make me question something, though, because as we see after the new reincarnation, he remembers his old life after 4 years old or so, and he's going to use his old life knowledge in this new world. But we're not given any info on his first life and how he might have utilized that in his second life, the original life as we thought earlier in episode 1. If they do not mention that or explain something about that during the entire season, I'll be quite unhappy as well, because we will be having a big massive black hole of all his earlier lives and how that impacted him. Then again, as always, we'll have to see. Still only episode 1. Interestingly enough, his name is the same in the new life as in the old. Wonder if that's some sort of celestial rule or not. Who knows? To end off the video though, as we have been going, yeah, a bit over par here, I have to say. I do have to make some quick notes on the magic system. As always, even if you get tired of it here, I never get tired of exploring magic systems or exploring unique sort of fantasy systems in any sort of, fantasy, sci-fi, or, isekai anime. I do really want to know more about magic elements, how elements work. Can you mix things? Can you mix multiple elements? How do you mix things? How does that affect the magic? How do the rules of this system work? We've gotten really nothing so far, I feel like. Seems like Merlin, for example, is using lightning-based spells, but she is S-rank in water and wind. So does that enable lightning spells, or how does all this work? How does it work together? No idea yet, but I would quite like to see if they hopefully explore more of that in this new life. Another thing that I made note of course, is that, yes, our main character specifically says he can use level 10 magic, and that is like the peak of his ability. But since it is clear that the prodigies, the other emperor mages, and I suppose maybe others as well, are able to be even stronger, I assume there has to be even higher level spells or magic that we haven't yet seen. So hopefully they maybe show that off as well sometime later, for spectacle at the very least. This though, finally, thank God you might say, brings me to my overall impressions of the first episode. On the plus side, the production quality, it's not bad at all. Like, the animation seems definitely above average. Some decent motion, decent magic animation, fight animation so far. Nothing, of course, crazy, but more than what you might expect from this kind of isekai. So that's a plus so far, for sure. Now, yes, the tail end of the episode and the massive problem I had with episode 1, that does dampen my excitement quite a lot, to be honest, of the future of this series, this summer season. But if they at least try to course correct and do things well moving forward from this episode, I do think I can end up seeing this as like it's an okay, middle-of-the-road power fantasy isekai setup where you might have some cute characters, hopefully some good characters as well, some good character development, some interesting plot, not just pure stupid power fantasy fun. Though, to be fair, I still appreciate those because I'm an addict, I can't help it. Don't blame me, don't sue me. But while my excitement has been heavily muted by episode 1, or at the end of it, rather, I still think that hopefully it can turn out to be, at the very least, decent. It has all the hallmarks to be able to be so hopefully it can pull it off. What about you, though? What did you think of episode 1 of the second reincarnation of the Talentless Sage? Do feel free to leave all those thoughts, comments, responses, ideas in the comment section down below. I'll be happy to read and respond to them. With all that being said, thank you very much for watching this video. Hope you have a nice, wonderful day. Keep watching anime, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.